I believe conversations like these would be incredibly useful to have, where we can get people together in a time format that does fit more schedules, but also has a more clear outcome, which I
Okay.
think would be really important to do around self-esteem and self-image.
Okay.
So helping people really come to understand who they are so that when someone tries to control their mind, it's not as easy for them to be manipulated because they have clarity about who they are.
Okay.
You have an interesting approach from the holistic health avenue and then also the lawful side.
Well, the thing is this. Let's say, for instance, someone is offering a new approach or an approach, period, to make money online. All those approaches, and this leads into, of course, learning anything, whether it's law or whatever. All those approaches do not address going back into someone's past to find out what happened there, that when they approach anything new, automatically will disallow them, even if they want it. I want to do this. Yes, I want this. I want that, or I want that. It stops them. It's a well, yes. Your conscious says yes, I want this, and your subconscious, we'll say your lower self, because we have a higher self and a lower self, says no, you can't do that. You know you're stupid, or whatever it is that you are, or whatever it is that you've been acclimated into believing. So do you have a way to, I mean, I think I have a way to approach that, but do you have a way?
I'm curious what yours is, and then I'd better be able to explain what my equivalent is, I think.
Well, mine is probably like everybody else's, where your father and mother and society in itself, and because the father and mother do something and say these things to individual people in the family, the kids, if there's any other kids, they'll remember it and say it too. So it's sort of like acclimated into you. Your lack of ability because of your parents' lack of ability, your uncle's lack of ability, your aunt's lack of ability, and so on and so forth. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Is this like generational programming?
Yeah, yeah. And because we act in society in such a way that we actually believe what that generational programming is, it stops us from, just like law, you know, what we call law is actually the legal system approach of brainwashing you into believing certain words, certain ways of doing things. The legal society will try to acclimate you into, well, it does, just right from birth. Your parents have been acclimated, they teach you, you are acclimated, you teach yourself limitations after that. The law society will say the upper Canada Law Society or the Supreme Court or the legal system in itself, the administrative courts, they just teach you, like, put it this way, when they send you a summons, you know that's an invitation. When they send you a notice, you should know. I mean, one should know, and I suspect at your level too, you will know that it's an offer to contract. You can either accept that offer or not, but most people think a notice or a summons is not what it actually is, but it is a command. You better show up in court because we've been brainwashed. How have we been brainwashed? In school. Let's say the teacher says, okay, I want you to fill this form out. They don't give you an option how to fill it out. They just say you got to fill it out this way, and so on and so forth. It's just massive, the amount of things that we have been acclimated into, which is very difficult to teach anybody else to not think that way.
It's like the Truman Show with Jim Carrey on there.
Oh,
Which
it's all of that, yeah.
is a very relevant time to say welcome to the call, Neil Sperling.
I'm on now.
Yep.
Ooh, there we go.
Hey, Neil, I see you.
How are you, brother?
Hey, good. We dropped off the papers the other night, and we hope that you got them.
Oh, I definitely did. I let Grant know.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've already got, I guess there's 2 bundles got delivered to the CSA group.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me, 2 bundles there, and I got 3 to deliver in my truck. I just finished delivering the last of last month's today, just within 15 minutes ago. I got actually 7 papers left.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. Well, I think it's perfectly befitting that it's the 3 of us that are on at this time. We are 15 minutes into a call that I did a lot for up to 2 hours, but I'd love to make it a lot shorter and sweeter. I know that, Neil, you have a lot of insight into the MK Ultra mind control programming propaganda experience, and you were on previous workshop summits that we had on this last year. And so I wanted to bring back in some of the knowledge that was shared last year because it was really valuable, but I also want to be able to fast track people's experience through it too. And then, James, I know you've got a unique vantage point because of your experience as a holistic practitioner that ended up getting into the court system against pharmaceutical company that challenged your right to use the term doctor, if I'm correct.
Well, not only that, it wasn't just the term doctor, it was the fact that I was curing people. I don't use that loosely. It was actually, of course, in holistic medicine, you, or maybe you do or don't know, but what I do is I increase one's immune response in a very specific way because I was actually causing the symptoms of MS and Parkinson's and ALS to go away. And Big Pharma didn't like it. And I had 10 chiropractors from my town, London, in the courtroom with me, backing me up because they knew that what I could do and what I have done. And Big Pharma was with the courts, in coercion with the courts, were trying to throw me in jail for a long time and make me pay a whole bunch of money, which of course didn't work because I asked God at that time when I was in the courtroom. It was an all day court thing. I asked God, I said, God, I need help here. And God came in and brought some people into my life at that time, sovereign freeman type people, and I was able to win the case after that. Yeah.
Right on.
It's Laura J., Neil Sperling, and Dr. James here today. 3 Canadians who all connected through druthers, as a matter of fact. James delivering them to Neil, who then connected me to James, and the man that we both know who helped me come to learn much of what I know about the lawful side of things, not legal. And so on this particular day, when we have come together to talk about MK Ultra mind control programming and propaganda, I think it's befitting that the mind control programming propaganda, that piece last year when Chris Weisdorf introduced Albert Bernays. Are you familiar with his work?
I am not. Neil?
No, me neither. I'm more researched on the gentle side of MK Ultra. The deep side, they were right into causing people to lose their identity completely, and be programmed completely into the type of person that they want to have. The movie, the Bourne Report or whatever it was, Jason Bourne,
Oh yeah.
Bourne Identity. That was, he was MK Ultra to do what he was doing. He was wondering why he knew all these different things. Yeah.
Right.
So the Bourne Identity kind of gives you that concept, but MK Ultra, in the way they've hypnotized the masses, is really just brainwashing, and it's using the power of suggestion over and over and over, and spaced repetition and repeating the same message until the people lose their original thought. In the sales and marketing, they say that if you see an ad for something that you think is crazy, you'll think, oh, that's crazy. Who'd want to buy one of those? And then you see another ad for it and another ad for it. Pretty soon you start to think, that's an interesting idea. I bet I could have fun with that, or that would be something I would like. And it takes 21 times, and then all of a sudden you think, I've been thinking about this for a long time. I'm going to go buy it.
I gotta run over people in order to get it too, because I want it that bad. It just dawned on me how important it is to me. It was always important to me. I just needed to reconnect with it.
Exactly. So we're programmed gently, and that's MK Ultra put to the masses in a mild form, so we're unaware of it happening. In the true MK Ultra program done through the CIA and the evil ones, they use shock treatment, they use hypnotizing, they use drugs, they use everything in order to completely brainwash them, flashing lights in the eyes so that their brain shuts off, and then they start to program them for what they want them to be. They can make a killer out of somebody who is a gentle spirit.
Right. Do they ever use like waterboarding and all that stuff?
Waterboarding?
Yeah.
What is that?
Oh, you guys better look that up. That is a technique of almost like desensitizing your whole system. Like it's almost like a gentle torture, but no, it's like you feel like you're going to die, and then they stop it.
Yeah.
You know, that type of thing, and then they put it back on. It's terrible.
So are they doing it in water? Almost drowning? Okay, so they're almost drowning you, and you think your light's out, and then all of a sudden they bring you back, and just like the movie Conspiracy Theory.
Pretty much.
Did you see that, Laura? Conspiracy Theory?
No.
Did you ever watch any of the Bourne Identity movies with Jason Bourne? I think there was 3. 2 for sure.
There was 4 altogether at the end.
Was there 4?
Yeah.
Oh, they were great movies.
I didn't watch all of them. I didn't understand the deeper meaning behind movies previously.
Oh.
So I avoided a lot of the propaganda because it was just like, no, I don't like how this feels. And I remember there being a disconnect even when I was, the first time that I went to a really low space. It's just like, how do I even fit into this world when like the shit that's on the TV that is supposedly true completely doesn't feel relevant or real to me? Like how am I supposed to function in a world where that's the reality? And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I remember that being like, maybe I really need to like watch the news and try really hard to believe that like this is the most important stuff that's happening in this world.
Yeah.
It's amazing how easy it is to manipulate the mind. When the Twin Towers fell down and Bush went to Iraq, the perfect example of what happened to brainwash the masses is they wanted to take the attention off of Bush because he was getting a lot of heat. There was a whole lot of people that were waking up. They didn't want to be in Iraq. They knew that wasn't where the problem lie, and they didn't know for sure where it was. We weren't as well researched in the whole thing as we are today. But they wanted to take the heat off of Bush, and because the media is totally corrupted by the evil ones, what they did was, okay, we have to get the brain of the masses thinking about something else. So boom, along come Martha Stewart and the insider trading, and Michael Jackson held the baby over the balcony. Those two stories took front page, and immediately, just like that, everybody stopped talking about the war, which was by far the most important topic on the whole planet at that time. So they all started talking about Martha and Michael. And the masses are so easy to program. It's ridiculous how easy it is to brainwash people, or program people into thinking something else when they're already brainwashed and not thinking for themselves.
Yeah.
Well, if you've
But
had
that's
intuitive abilities stripped, like we have in this reality where we're told, like, what is certain is real and what's not real is what, you know, we're living. It's just it's so insane. Like, this is a crazy making place if we don't have community, which is why I wanted to create these opportunities to come together, to be able to create community where we could talk about what has been and the manipulative tendencies of propaganda machines and engines that are propagated and propelled by us to actually move the corporations and its machines forward. And if we can just come together and then actually create a vision that's going to work for us instead of against us, then we actually create an alternative that those that have been selling themselves and their fellow man and woman out, because that's the way that they make and earn their bread and butter, then they have an option to be able to turn to that may not be the most comfortable transition, because no transition truly is, and yet it will be more comfortable than just letting everything collapse and then trying to rebuild from there, I think. So I think if we come together and we talk about the techniques that have been used, that are being used, that we're aware of, and we create the opportunities to be able to gather and then share what we know, that's the intel of the informants that ultimately we become for ourselves. Just to kind of,
I think that Laura, I think that brainwashing technique is a simple one, just like what Neil was saying. Just repetitiveness. They repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and eventually the whole society, and then the whole society, just like a family, if the mother and father say something about a child, the whole other part of the family will continue to say that. True or not is irrelevant. They just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And then that individual, which is us, or one individual who's being preyed on repetitively, will believe it. Just like society believes it when they repeat something over and over and over again. I'm done. Oh, when I say this, when I say I'm not gonna speak anymore, I yield. Go ahead.
I hear many people use that in the common law. Carry on, Neil.
Yeah, you're on the right track with the programming. The way we have to do it is not so much coming together in groups. It's a matter of continually working at observing what's going on, because part of the brainwashing, they've stopped us from observing what's actually going on. And
I guess what I meant to say, Neil, was to finish it off, was the fact that let's use their method. Let's repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. What we have to say, and it'll counteract that, the frequency, the vibratory frequency of what, you know, is the low vibratory frequency, which is what other people, you know, the sheeple are being brainwashed into.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Repeating our version, but at the same time, if we don't teach a little bit of observation, and critical thinking as we go, we'll just be the programmers and be just as evil as them, only we're doing it our way.
But we're doing it also. I mean, you know, we're helping, we're not hurting.
I would like to say the term sheeple and other ones such as woke or conspiracist theorist or all of these different labels that have been used to divide us. I think.
Oh no, but Laura, I don't use them on sheeple. I just tell you guys this. And I spell sheeple not the way people usually spell it, with the which is SHEEPLE. I just use an SH and replace the P and use it that way. But anyway, you know, I don't say this to the sheeple themselves. Anyway, go ahead.
The way I approach that is I don't mind saying you're behaving like a sheeple, that you've been programmed not to think. Here's another way to look at it. It's the way you approach it. I don't get into the political correct movement whatsoever. And sticks and stones will break my bones, but names won't hurt me. And people have to learn how to stand in their power and not take anything personal. Then they're going to grow a whole lot further, lot further. Okay. And the whole political correct movement and the worrying about what you call people or what you say, or I guess the labels, all of that was part of the programming, because they programmed us to be afraid to speak our mind, rather than program us, or rather than encourage us to stand in your power no matter what you hear.
Yeah.
When people call me names or whatever, it runs off of me like water off a duck. And anybody who is awake, they feel the same way. But the ones who are asleep, if you call them a name, they take it personally. That means they've been programmed into thinking that everybody's going to be fluffy and perfect, which is a pile of crap. We're people. We're all going to be making mistakes, and we have to be able to stand in our power no matter what anybody says. You have to be taught how to not take things personal. That's part of the process of waking up too.
Hey, have you guys read the book, The Four Agreements?
Yeah, long time ago.
Well, don't take it personally. That, you know, goes in with that. Laura, what would you say if I'm speaking to you? What would you say for me to say to you, so I'm not using the word sheeple, to say that I'm talking about people that are not awake? Go ahead.
People.
Huh?
I said people. I don't know.
I know, but should I just say other people not like us who are not awake, or what should I say? How do I?
I think that would be more palatable, because we can say, I'm not going to say it to the sheeple. I'm only going to say it to others who can identify that someone is acting like a sheeple. But I think that even to say acting like a sheeple compared to being a sheeple is an important vernacular distinction that's important, because to say acting like a sheeple is to recognize that a sheeple is an archetype, which is a familiar pattern that gets filled in with energy for good or bad, scared or sacred, right?
Should we say the brainwashed?
I think that is closer to feeling less offensive, though I understand what you mean by sheeple, and I also understand what you mean by brainwashed.
Right. I think it's the same thing, but.
Absolutely.
And there is the element to people getting offended and shutting down even before they've had an opportunity to gain access to what could actually help them. Also, doesn't really help when there's that whole divisive, like you're on our camp or you're on that camp, but like those camps aren't together, you know?
Every situation will be a little bit different, and it's how you present it. Like, I have no problem calling somebody a sheeple, but it's a good thing you can wake up, and I turn it into humor, and I slap them But at the same time, I believe in that there's a path a mile wide where shaking trees is just as much powerful as hugging trees.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a matter of doing it in a compassionate way. And it's your presentation that matters. Like if I call somebody a sheeple and I'm angry and I force it and put it in a context where I'm angry and I'm really looking down at them, that's one thing. But if I call them a sheeple and at the same time put it in a context where, but you can wake up, you know, I don't have to put it in those words, but it's a context around those words. Like then they don't take offense to it. It's just a matter of learning your delivery and what you're saying.
I don't ever call anybody directly a sheeple. I mean, you know, I would lose them as an audience. So I'm just making a short form to you guys when I'm talking about people that have been brainwashed. It's one word, sheeple. I have no problem saying that. I hope you guys don't take offense to it.
No offense.
Okay, Laura?
No offense taken. It's just to say that I do not condone the use of words that would make us seem like there is a that I think on both sides of the camp, like we're all in this together, which you're saying the same thing. And so whatever you choose to do, I respect that decision. I just, as the one hosting this meeting, say personally, I don't wish to use a label such as sheeple because I feel like there are some connotations to it that
Okay, I tell you what, I'll use the word refrigerator instead. So those refrigerator type people.
refrigerator, that's pretty cool.
But it's like the word fuck. It was derived during the Spanish Inquisition for people that were being crucified for fornicating under common knowledge. It's you know, it's the first letter of each of those words that cause that word fuck. I mean, really, it's
An
just
acronym.
yeah, that's it. Acronym.
Really?
How about refrigerator?
I like cool people. So sure. I think that and that it is nice compared to the word that we're familiar with that's more divisive because we can laugh about a refrigerator compared to if we think that we are a refrigerator, then like you're pushing more buttons.
That's it. Yep.
I think that this part of the conversation is just as important as finding out if you put your left sock on first or your right sock on first. It makes no difference to me what you name somebody. You know, it's a matter of putting them in standing in their power. And I don't want to know if you put your left sock on first or right. It don't matter to me.
Let me ask both of you a question. The question is that have you ever seen the word human in the Bible?
I haven't honestly read the Bible. I've read passages or sections or parts of it. But
Well, that word is not in there, and so we've adopted that from the legal society. It's like the hue around man. It's like the prefix that diminishes man, if you know what I mean. Anyway, just a point there.
Well, a person is the only way that Jesus is referenced in the book or anyone else too, because those are measurements of titles.
No, but didn't I say human? I didn't say person. But anyway, yeah.
It's just
human.
another construct that we are conceive ourselves to be, right?
Yeah.
Like we see ourselves to be a human. We see ourselves to be a person. We see ourselves to
be that's it. Yeah. Okay.
a cautious litigant if someone deems us to be causing them irritation, frustration, or annoyance within the legal system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever status or title we take on, that essentially is our Jesus character. Because Jesus was not called Jesus when he lived. Neil, his name was?
Yeshua.
Okay. So if his name was Yeshua while he lived, and then a book was written about him being called Jesus, what is Jesus but the title applied to the man known as Yeshua?
And also, he was given his last name as Christ, but that's what he became. So his last name is not Christ. I mean, whatever.
Christ is consciousness.
Yeah.
Was enlightened in the Christ force. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that Christ force is in every single cell of your body. And you have 70 to 100 trillion cells in your body, and every one of them is directly connected to source.
Yeah.
So that's where the body is a temple, literally.
Yeah. So we're talking about brainwashing.
Well,
Or
it stepped into a different realm in terms of religion, identity, politics,
is it
construct.
how we can sort of acclimate people into a law?
I think so. I think this is
Yeah.
how we bring the worlds together, to start seeing how we've been deceived and programmed to believe things to be different than they are, and then to have conversations about the truth and reality of things with people that are doing things in a different way, like what we are.
You know, I've helped so many people out with paperwork, and I get them to grab my hand, and I pull them out of the ocean, and then they jump right back in. So because of their brainwashing, because they've been acclimated into the legal system, they don't even know what was done for them.
There's a quote that says people would rather hang on to a familiar hell rather than reach to an unknown heaven.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the whole process of just shaking people up a little bit, hugging them when they need it, shake them when they need it, and constant and never ending repetition to help them start to see for themselves and actually learn what they should have learned in school. And that's how to think critically and observe.
But they never were taught that in school. They were taught
That's
to
what I'm
stand
saying.
in line and fill out the form the way the teacher wanted you to do it, accept the form. And so we do that in the whole legal society. They send us a summons. We don't really know what that is. We certainly don't know that they're referring to us as being a spirit, and they're going to, you know, you're going to appear in court. I mean, it's all that stuff. It's so bad.
Reminds me of the fable
Very
of
cruel.
Peter Pan and Never Neverland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Captain Hook is the government coming around to steal the children, and Peter Pan is getting there first with the illusion of what it means to remain a child forever in Neverland.
Yep.
But there's another side to Peter Pan was the bad guy because he was taken.
Yes, he was a bad guy.
He was the one that was confiscating the children and taking them to the island. So he was the bad guy.
Right.
Captain Hook was actually trying to save him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then we have to ask who wrote.
Or maybe it was good cop, bad cop. Anyway, go ahead.
Right? Well, these are the things. These are the things that we are taught to look at things in a certain way. Like even I've heard Harriet Tubman, God bless the woman. It's just, holy crap. Was she really leading people into a different form of slavery when they arrived to their destination indebted and endowed to her, who converted her into a slave to a different system, a different idol, a different master of a different form?
Yep.
Crazy. All of these people that have used their power and position in order to defame and defraud others, to prey on their weaknesses. Human trafficking is such a huge concept that needs to be brought into this with the MK Ultra component of things, which I wanted to actually share a page on the History Channel, actually. And I thought this was exclusion area would be fitting for the times that we're living in, which Alan W. Dulles was the director of the CIA at an executive session of the Joint Congressional Atomic Energy Committee. So I thought it was interesting how it was referred to. But the CIA's appalling human experiments with mind control has a fantastic audio track when you go to the page that I don't know. I couldn't find out where it was to stop it, so I couldn't tell you how to repeat that. This MK Ultra page here, a lot of information. The Cold War and Project MK Ultra, the LSD in Sydney, Night Climax, the death of Frank Wilson, out there, James. And you can unmute yourself when you're done moving your paper. It was just getting loud with the rustling of papers next to your phone there. Ken Kesey and other MK Ultra participants, and then the church committee. So I just think this is absolutely fantastic watching. I'll put this into the chat there so you guys can look at it, and then I'll send the video. Hopefully will play when I get in there. You can unmute yourself there, James. I didn't mean to mute you if you had something to say. I just wanted to stop if you didn't so that we could hear a more clean recording. So I'm going to share that over in the, that's great. Oh, you probably don't know how to unmute it. Oh, that's a danger. I'm asking you to unmute it. Oh,
there you are. You're back.
I didn't mute it in the first place, so I didn't know that I was muted.
Yeah. Well, I told you I'd muted you just so that
okay. I got it.
You probably couldn't hear it over the rustling of papers because we couldn't hear anything either.
Sorry. I got a point when you were talking. I guess I'll hear it on the recording. Now I forgot that point because you said something about muting, so it just went out the window, whatever it was. Really, it was a good point, but I'll get it when I hear the video.
Okay, good. Well, I look forward to getting it when you do.
Yeah.
And those two links from the History Channel I sent into the meeting chat there, so feel free to check those out, and hopefully you'll be able to listen to the narrated version of it because it's excellent. And then Bernays, as I mentioned, he was actually kind of like the granddaddy of propaganda and really pitching marketing around the customer's motivational needs. So Bernays, his style of kind of getting you obsessed and intoxicated with the outcome is Bernays's specialty. Kind of would be an explanation for Edward Bernays's work. So I wanted to touch on that because Chris Weisdorf had mentioned it last year, and that was just kind of an epiphany and just mind expanding when he did that. And then to also share about Stockholm syndrome, we did touch on that last year more so. And then Munchausen syndrome too, which is when you actually start making your dependent sick, which is kind of what the government have done in order to get more profits off of the people that then become patients and dependents on wards of hotels or hospitals that become the equivalent, and the people's trust are what pay for the health care they think comes from insurance, but where does the payment for the insurance come? But of course, James, what would you like to add in?
What syndrome is it that I'm sure you've all seen this, where the girl comes into the medical room and there's a bunch of people there and they're all standing up when they hear a beep and then they sit down. She eventually acclimates into that. What syndrome is that?
Oh, I don't know.
Is that Stockholm? Neil, do you know that one?
No, I don't. I kind of abstain from following all of the
I see. Okay.
Oh yeah.
because it boils back. It always boils back down to programming and overpowering your inadequacies and your faults and things of that
Well,
nature.
it's almost like the herd mentality, where because you know a bunch of people, well, they're all doing it. Y'all have to pay for free utilities, and all have to pay to travel from point A to point B.
Well, it's kind of like the Milgram experiment, right?
What's that?
I said it's kind of like the Milgram experiment, right?
Don't know it.
The Milgram experiment was about applying pain, or it was the Milgram experiment on obedience to authority figures were a series of social psychology experiments conducted at Yale University, where basically the experimenter was supposed to administer shocks to someone that was on the other side of a door, and then they gradually started getting more pained responses to these shocks, begging for their lives, begging for mercy. And the one that pushed the buttons had to take the order from someone that was in on it, as was the one that was getting shocked. So the only one that wasn't in on it was the one that was actually pushing the button to administer the shock. But the one that was telling him to do so and the one that was getting shocked both knew that what he did was inconsequential to them.
Yeah, I've seen that before many times, but no, this one is where, because everybody's doing it, you eventually fall into doing it yourself because you don't want to be the girl out or the guy out,
Yeah, falling into line patterns. Absolutely. Well, the Stockholm syndrome, just FYI, is a coping mechanism to a captive or abusive situation where people actually develop positive feelings toward their captors or abusers over time. So even though the government has done some pretty evil things, people don't want to not have the government because what would happen if they didn't?
Oh my God, there'd be anarchy. That's what it would be. You'd actually govern yourself. Can you believe it if you governed yourself peacefully? Oh my God, there'd be anarchy. No, I'm just kidding.
We definitely need some training in order to make sure that anarchy is an arc key. The arc.
That's it. The arc. Yeah, exactly. I always looked at it that way. The arc is the umbrella over you, controlling you, rather than not.
Yeah.
And the
rather
whole
than being anti of that. Yeah, exactly.
the whole human trafficking side use a lot of that type of stuff so that the girls actually will do anything for their pimp, and they want to because they feel that that's where they get the nice treatment. That's why they get the bottle of champagne. That's why they get the,
Yeah, that's what the Matrix was all about too. When Morpheus said that these people all around you will even defend those people that enslave them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they can also be overtaken by the Smith agents at any time because the program speaks through them compared to what they would actually say or do if they weren't under the influence of that was programmed onto and into them, right?
Yeah, it's just like when you're, let's say, traveling and you're using your cell phone, you'll try to desperately not let anybody see you using your cell phone, even if you're parked and you're not moving, because all of society are the Smiths that will report you.
Yeah. Vigilantes are everywhere. Hang on, look out. They're coming to get you.
Brother
Yeah,
is
no,
watching.
it's true.
Yeah. Well, that goes right back to the last paper I had to deliver until I go through the loop of going around and come back to where I had the truck parked on the crescent. The last paper I had to deliver, the lady was, we don't want any of that propaganda here. Nobody here wants it. And I said, I beg to differ with you. And then she starts hollering at the guy across the street. We got to scare this guy out of here. And here I am, I'm finished. And that was my last delivery. I just looked at them both and laughed and got in my truck and drove away. And they probably thought that they scared me away. And I was finished. Otherwise, I had just kept going. It was hilarious.
Wow. Well, that was an interesting experience to have today with the Druthers magazine and the propaganda they describe it to be. What is propaganda in the scheme of things?
The funny part of it is I had 2 or 3 people thank me. Yeah, well, thanks. I had one guy the last time I was out, not today, but the last time I was out, just keep up the good work. We really appreciate what you're doing out there. So yeah, you just go with the flow. Don't take anything personal.
Yeah, another agreement from.
Yep.
This is a book by. Oh, the light goes away in that moment, but the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is here. So I keep it close, and I even referenced it in my book because I think it's fantastic. So, all of that said, I would like to get the light balanced, and I did. I would like to know whether there was a particular point that you think ties into MK Ultra mind control programming and propaganda in a way that adds value to the conversation and starts the conversation that we could carry on in a subsequent meeting where more people are able to join at a better time.
Just bringing people awareness to the fact that it is so easy to program a person into being and behavior modification in the way you want them to be. The masses are too easily led, and every time we talk about how come that works, it causes people to start to question their own beliefs. And that to me is where it all begins. It's a little hug at the right time and shake the tree at the right time and wake people up to the fact that they don't know how to think. You might have to tell them point blank, you haven't been taught how to critically think. Look at these things and you're not seeing it. How can you not see that when the evidence is right there as an example? But they still won't see it. But that doesn't matter, because when you shake a tree, the fruit of the tree falls to the ground. And somebody, maybe not you, will come along and water that seed. Eventually, that tree will grow and the person will realize that they've been hoodwinked. The last thing that we need to do is try to wake somebody up from the level of their brainwashed situation to understanding what we understand and what we see. All we can do is encourage them, nudge them, shake them up a little bit, love them, all the above, just so that eventually they start to come out of that shell and see. And that is anti-MK Ultra. It's not to the degree of trying to help somebody who's been through the complete program where they've been shock treatment and drugs and all the other things, flashing lights to brainwash them. No, the masses have to realize that they've been MK Ultra in a whole different way, right from our grandparents to us. And it's going to take a little bit of shaking them and hugging them and encourage them to actually stand up and see from a higher level of consciousness. And it's time. It's time. Repetition. From mother learning. Repetition.
Time, repetition, and also community support that we're creating through opportunities like this. So thank you for being such an integral part of my community over this whole insanity as well, Neil. I do very much appreciate that, and want to also say, while you were speaking, it triggered the connection that I got to make with the man at the Druthers house when we were doing the packing party, who had shared his involvement with ending the human trafficking trade. And your early efforts were targeted toward really helping with that in one of the videos you had created when we had first met, Neil, back in 2020. So maybe that is somewhere we could go in future, because it's a big conversation, and I want to be respectful of our time today and the fact that we came together, small but mighty few. And I want to give both of you to the opportunity to add some value, and then also come back where we can then continue on with the conversation. So
James, what he has to make his closing comments here.
that's exactly the point.
Can I say my point too? Because I gave it to Neil. Now I want to say my.
Yeah,
that
that's
okay?
exactly the point.
Okay.
The mic is yours.
No, but you just did. Okay, fine. I thought you asked the question. We were both going to give our points, so now I'm going to give mine.
Perfect.
Okay, so I believe that people are still stuck in that fact that they don't know what they don't know what they don't know. So it's not like you could. I don't believe it's something that we can use a basis at, but we can, let's say, give them some ideas in their own minds to, let's say, think about. Like, I think MK Ultra is not used, has not been used by definition to, let's say, when we were growing up, but by, in fact, example, like in public school, embarrassment will, because you're not going along with the society, embarrassment will be like a punishment, or getting the strap will be like a punishment. You did this wrong, so you're going to have to get the strap. So you can't think for yourself in public school. I think that's the MK Ultra approach in public school, of being in a lineup, just like you were in prison. Also, if we could give examples and get them to utilize their minds, and then place in that another sort of framework of way of thinking. Let's say if we could, just for example, you guys, if you could shut your eyes right now. Neil, if you could shut your eyes right now. Laura's already got her eyes shut. Okay. So if you could think, let's say, of taking a lemon and actually use the example as if you're actually putting it in your mouth, the wedge, and bite on it, you'll be able to taste that lemon. And then if we can work from that sort of platform and say, you know, if you can taste the lemon and there's no lemon in your mouth, what is it that you think that you can actually do with your mind with all this information that's been given you? And let's say start out from public school and give them those examples. What did it feel like when you weren't going along with everybody in public school? You felt embarrassed. You wanted to be part of the group, and that type of thing. I'm just saying different approaches. I yield.
Yeah, the power of the mind is phenomenal in that way. And you're right. Many of the courses that I took, the Silva method of mind control, got me started down that path. But if we start off with an idea, and then we start to think about that idea a little bit more often. So we start to have a thought pattern around it. Pretty
Yep.
soon we catch ourselves thinking about it all the time. So they're the habitual thoughts. And those thoughts become our habits, which develops our character, which develops who you are. And it's a process that's done on an individual basis. But this whole process, exactly like this, is done on the collective. And we're
Yeah.
all being programmed in the same process. Whatever
And it's-
level that person is, you want to approach communicating with them at that level. Some people are already at this level, so you have to teach them a different way. They're already starting to develop close to habits, and you have to stop them from in their tracks, using a pattern interrupt in psychology, and get them stopping that and thinking of a different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But but the end result is not who you are, it's who you think you are. It's always who you think you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether it's good or bad, it's who you think you are.
You think yourself into being what you think you are.
Yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about? Who do
I
you
know.
are? Mr.
But I can't think of it. Yeah.
Ooh, that's where my mind went. But that was a horribly botched job of it because I had to doubly figure out what the lyrics were. I just knew what they were, but then I had to like re-sing them. So I think I like saw them and then I heard them. So that is just a reflection of how the sensory perceptors in me work, and is a reminder to you that maybe you are clairaudient, which means you have clear hearing of things. Maybe you're clear visual, where you have just like a seeing of what's unseen, or a claircognizance of clear knowing, or a clairsentience of clear.
Mine is a knowing. Somebody told me I was a super empath, and I actually had all the empathic whatever. So I'd never heard of the word empath until about 5 years ago. I said, "What's that? Is that empathy?" And they said, "No, it's where you know, or you whatever, you know." So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I'm just like you, James, pure, all of a sudden I know something and I don't know why I know it, but I know it without a shadow of a doubt. And when I get to that level of knowing, I'm always correct. Yeah. For the moment. That doesn't mean to say things won't change, but at the same time, I'm always on track that way.
You know, when I was writing my book, it all came to me from my higher self, which I consider God, or, I mean, we have a lower self too, but I'm just saying, it came from my higher self because I'd get up in the morning at 7. I'd look at the time, it's 7 o'clock, it's dark outside, it was in the wintertime, I'd start typing, and I'm doing my book, and it's flowing through me. And at 11 o'clock, I'd look at the time again, and I go, man, yeah, you know what, I am hungry. But it wasn't 11 o'clock in the morning. It was, the clock went right around to 11 o'clock. So I was in a trance most of the time that I was writing the book. So,
yep.
Yep.
Wow. Where's this book? What is it? When did it come out? What's its name?
It's called The Awakening. It's 365 pages.
365, one for every day of the year.
Cool.
It is about healing capacities that are not known on the planet. There is no bibliography in the book because there is nobody out there that has written anything like this. For instance, there's a method in the book that if you use it will allow you to heal up a bad burn that would normally blister, and then it would break maybe in about 2 or 3 weeks later after that, and then aesthetically heal up. In other words, the skin would grow over top. But in my book, there's a method to that you can use that will allow you to heal it up in 3 to 5 minutes without a blister, cool, with it being perfect right after that, and so on and so forth. Now, this I say right in the book, I think I say in the first part of the book that that it was Source or God or whatever that came. This book is dedicated to the one whose name is unpronounceable by man. I mean, really, I'm talking about God. So,
exactly.
And so Yeah. So to that, to go to the extreme of if you cut your finger off, let's say right there. In other words, between this bone and this bone, you could grow it back in 10 days. I've done it.
Wow.
Or not me myself, but a patient called me up and told me their story. They were making sushi in the kitchen. They cut their finger off and went to the hospital, brought their finger there. The doctor in the emergency gerberated it because he said he looked at it and was all the bone fractures were all broken up there. Like the body wouldn't know how to put that back together. Anyway, gerberated it. The patient came back home. His wife called me up and said, Dr. James, Kerry has cut his finger off, and this is what they did. And he told me the story. He says, "What can we do anything?" I said, "Yeah, let's grow your finger back." So they were like, "What?" So Violet, the wife, she said, "Okay, how do we do that?" And I said, "Well, Kerry, get on the phone. I'll tell you how to do it." I said, "Don't take the bandage off for 10 days." And then he did. He took it off after 10 days, and his finger would look just like that. It was all grown back. The guy is still alive. Kerry is still alive. So, that's the short version of the story. But when they called me up and said, when Violet said, Dr. James, Kerry grew his finger back, I said, "Oh, that's great." And the reason why my response was like that was because I know that would happen. I wasn't going to say, "Oh my God, it actually worked. Are you crazy?" No, because I knew it would work. God told me. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
It's 365 pages. The book is.
yes, you
Cool.
did say that. And how would people get a hold of a copy?
I'm going to bring one to you, Laura.
Wonderful. I appreciate that for myself and other people if they were also interested.
I have about probably out of the 1,100 books that I got printed up, I think I've got about maybe 200 left.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll buy one from you too as well.
Yay. How much
What's
are you
that?
selling them for?
I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
How much are you selling them for? You'll want to buy
Oh,
one.
I've
And
been selling them
too.
for $39.95.
$39.95, $40.
Yeah, it's worth it.
For
I'll tell you why, because there's methods in the book that if you wear glasses, you can use those methods, and within less than 6 months, you can throw your glasses away and never have to use them again.
amazing. How long did it take you to write the book?
Cool.
4.5 years, and I'll tell you why. I wrote it for the first year, and then, you know how people say they get writer's block? That's a mechanical thing that they say. They're not inspired, I don't think, to write that book if they say that they get a writer's block. My situation was I was told to stop after a year. So after a year I stopped, and a year and a half later I was told to start again. And then up to 4.5 years, that's what I say it took. So in other words, of actual writing, it was 3 years, and a year and a half of whatever was happening to allow me to then continue to write it up to 4.5 years.
Wow.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for bringing it into the world so that we can benefit from it.
Yeah.
And for sharing your insights and wisdom today, each of
It
you.
is. All right. Well, I was going to say about the book, it's not my insight, it's God's insight. You see how God even got me to take that infinity sign
Over
and
the
use
eye. Oh,
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right on.
That's awesome.
Well, I look forward to that one.
Yeah. Fantastic. Me too. So thank you for sharing that. And we will wrap up today's call by saying small but mighty is still mighty indeed. So I look forward to having more of you join us next time. I will do better at giving more notice. There are some live events coming this month, which are very exciting. So make sure you check those out at ljeh.ca. And I say thank you to each of you for being present today.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Neil.
Thank you both.
Peace and love. Peace and love.